Hey, what's up, everybody? It is Chris, and today I wanted to talk about something that's pretty popular right now, which is the Netflix movie Don't Look Up. So, if you haven't watched it yet and you do plan on watching it, there's definitely going to be spoilers, so probably not a good video for you to watch. But if you're like many who are just like, I don't know what you're talking about, and yeah, I've heard of it, but not interested, uh, just stick around. Stick around. It's actually pretty interesting. So, with that being said, let's take a look. So, Don't Look Up. It's basically a Leonardo DiCaprio film where it's not his film, but he stars in it, along with I believe it's Jennifer Lawrence, and there's a bunch of good actors in that movie. But basically, the premise of the movie is that they discover a comet is or asteroid is coming towards Earth, and that it's going to hit within 6 months of when they discovered it. And it was discovered by amateur astronomers, um, who are played by Leonardo DiCaprio and Jennifer Lawrence. So anyway, the story is that they go about trying to inform the government. When I say the government, meaning the U.S. government, about the approaching impending doom. And of course, they're not taken seriously, and it's very much a parody movie of what how government works and how they would treat it. But for lack of a better way of describing it, basically it becomes a political thing where the government doesn't want to take it seriously until it kind of plays into their need for votes and for creating fear. And that's very interesting because it's a very relevant movie in that aspect where we all have our different opinions of government, and does the government really have our best interest, or are these people all in it for themselves? um, you know do they even think about the common people, or is it just whatever fits into their agenda is what's important to them? And with something like, obviously, the potentially the end of the world, you would think that they take it seriously. But in the movie, they at first they don't. They kind of see where it fits with everything else they're doing, which is crazy because you would hope that the that the government would make that first priority, but they don't, and they end up changing their tune a little later when they find out that it will play to their advantage politically to let everybody know about the asteroid approaching Earth. So they use it politically. They make it into a thing where they're gonna do a big mission to destroy the asteroid or deflect it from Earth, and so it's a big thing. Um, but one of the big premises of the film is that you know you would think that there are a few things that government would be very, like, basically put all of their resources towards, which the end of the world would be one of them. Not just the United States government, but all of them. But again, that at the end of the day, politics played into how they dealt with it. So anyway, they end up organizing a mission, and they play it up. America's gonna save the world and blah 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 blah, and they end up deliberately sabotaging the mission because some corporation, like a cell phone corporation, has analyzed the asteroid and found out that it had precious metals within it, and that the value of those precious metals would basically wipe out the national debt and basically make America the richest nation forever, in perpetuity. So they decide, oh well, they sabotage their own mission, so that this private company can basically take a stab at harnessing the asteroid and making it where we can mine the resources once the asteroid collides safely with Earth into the ocean. So again, it's very much like one of those things that you probably have given some thought to at some point. Like, how much do you how much power do corporations have? How much does money really talk at the end of the day? Because we all know that with government, big corporations pay a lot of money to lobbyists and to politicians indirectly, so that they can get their way with different things. But you would think the one thing of all things would be the impending doom of humanity that they wouldn't play around with. But this film basically explores that. And so the private company ends up launching their own mission to try and harness the asteroid, and they end up failing pretty spectacularly. But which basically means the end of Earth. But of course, at the end, the politicians and the rich people get away in a space vehicle to another planet that they've identified. So it's a very it's a very entertaining film. It's kind of dark in its own way, but it is just for entertainment. But what I thought was really novel about the film is that, again, it makes you really question at the end of the day, like, who has your best interest at heart, and what does your best interest look like? Like, obviously, individually, if something like that were to happen, we individually, you don't really have much power to do anything. You trust in the government to be able to protect you, right? Like, you would think, like, okay, like, the military or somebody's going to step up and do something about it, and rightfully so, right? That's the premise of having a government. Its first priority is to protect the people. But especially in a time like this, where we've just seen a pandemic, we've seen, like, how divisive that can be. Even if the government does try to do something, part of the population is not going to believe that the government's doing the right thing. Part of them are not going to believe that the threat itself is even real, which is the whole play of the name of the film, Don't Look Up, which the one political party basically gets to the point where they're telling people, don't look up, don't believe what you're seeing in the sky. It's not real. They're just they're trying to create fear. It's not real. But you can clearly see that there's an asteroid heading to Earth, and so some of the people don't even realize till literally it's about to hit Earth that, oh my God, we were being lied to the whole time. And there's some, they're obviously targeting a particular political leaning with the film, because there's some direct correlations there as far as who they're trying to portray. But regardless of that, the end point of the movie is just that, you would think, again, that government, whether it be federal, whether it be state, whether it be local, that these institutions, do have your best interest in mind, at least fundamentally. Of course, now, like, you could have people who are just completely inept running, different elements of society or government. You could have people with ill intentions, corrupt people, things like that. But again, like, when you think about what's the one thing that, anybody is really going to do everything they can to put everything else aside and really deal with, it would be probably the end of the world, right? And this film kind of took that head on. Well, how could that potentially really look? Which is crazy. And I think it was pretty eye-opening. Like, I had never thought of it like that. I've always thought, like, private corporations, they do have a lot of power. And it's kind of sad, to some extent, just because, they don't necessarily have our best interests. When I say our, I mean, like, the general public. Maybe they do have some of the general public's interest, maybe like the wealthier or, a certain target segment of society. But, to see, like, something like that, I thought it was a very novel concept. And it rang very true because, again, there's just a healthy, at times, distrust of, like, government and what their intentions are and that kind of thing. But myself personally, like, I've always thought, like, when people say, like, oh, the government or this or that, when they say it in, like, a nefarious way, that, the government's trying to do something, not to your benefit, they're trying to poison you, or they're trying to do this or that. I mean, I can see where you're coming from, and I will say it, like I said, like, as someone who's read quite a bit of history and different things, we are capable of some pretty dark stuff. There's no doubt about it. Like, the United States has done some pretty shady stuff throughout our history. Not even just recently, like, pretty much throughout our history, we've been known for that kind of thing. So I don't put anything past anything. Like, anything is possible. But again, where this movie comes into play is that, you would think at the end of the day, like, something like that would be the one thing where everything else would be put aside and it would become priority number one. But that doesn't necessarily make it the case for this film. So I thought it was really interesting. It was good. I didn't think it was, like, life altering when I watched it, but I thought it was actually pretty humorous because just the way they portray things, even, like, for example, the owner of the phone company, that he's pretty much like I don't know what they're trying to portray him as like a Tim Cook from Apple mixed with Elon Musk, mixed with Jeff Bezos. Just kind of like the actual character they portrayed is like very socially awkward and very aloof, very intelligent, but like on the, socially on the other end of the spectrum. So very interesting portrayal, and just like it was crazy. It's a really funny movie, but I think it's one of those things that's also like very polarizing. I could see where, again, like if you're in the on the end of the spectrum that they were trying to portray as, not believing in facts in the movie, I could see how it'd be very off-putting. But I think, like I said, like rising above that particular aspect of it, it is pretty interesting to kind of contemplate, like, you know, are are things like that? Would that really be, something that would everyone would put aside their differences and deal with? Because that's what we've always kind of thought of, right? Like, I would say another movie that kind of deals with that is like Armageddon, right? Like Armageddon with Bruce Willis is one of those movies where it's just everyone puts everything else aside, not just here domestically but worldwide. Like everything just focuses on like how are we going to deal with this, and so all resources are put towards it. But like in reality, like that's how we would idealize it, right? We would think that that's what would happen, but in reality, who knows? It could be more like this movie Don't Look Up, where there are so many special interests that play into it that our actual response could be like inept and like end up destroying us, which is a crazy thought. But I thought this movie did a very novel job at demonstrating that concept, and I thought it was worth a watch. Like I said, I didn't think it was anything amazing or life altering, but it was worth the time to watch it, and it was pretty funny, and it did leave me with some thinking to do, as far as like just in general, like different things, different large subjects like that, large all-encompassing subjects like that would, how would we deal with it? So yeah, I just wanted to give my 2 cents on it because I know everyone is talking about it, but I know there's probably a lot of people who have heard of it but have no idea kind of what it's about or whether they want to watch it. It was actually pretty entertaining, and like I said, definitely worth, I think it was like 90 minutes to see, at least to get a few laughs out of it, at the very least. Anyway, that's it for right now, and I will see you later.